a lot of ingredients that we use and call classic, like vanilla, chocolate, all of these are coming from places that are not considered places of innovation for pastry. I was trying to look at what the history of food would look like without colonization. So I think I like to think about those things a lot and kind of imagine pastry through the context of history.
That was Brigitte Malivert, owner of Queen Bee Bake Shop. And this is Epicenter NYC. We connect our communities to news, information, and each other. I'm your host, Amber Castillo. Raised in a Haitian household, Brigitte Malivert grew up surrounded by rich flavors. But it wasn't until college that she discovered her love for baking. While on a pre-med track, she started experimenting with ben-yeh, inspired by Disney's The Princess and the Frog, as a way to relieve the stress of writing her thesis. But what began as a calming hobby soon led her to reconsider her future. This passion led to the creation of Queen Bee Bake Shop, where Brigitte specializes in custom cakes and desserts, blending her classical French training with the flavors of her Haitian heritage. Queen Bee Bake Shop isn't just about baking either. It's Brigitte's way of connecting her cultural roots with a modern twist on traditional desserts. Today, I sit down with Brigitte to learn more about her journey from pre-med to pastry, how she's blending her cultural roots with classical techniques, and what she envisions for her future in the kitchen. Before we jump in, a quick message from our team.
Hi, I'm Mariana from the Epicenter NYC team. Did you know that anxiety, sleep problems, and muscle pain could be symptoms of long COVID? Take the steps needed to protect yourself, your family, and your plants. Get vaccinated against COVID-19. We can help you schedule your appointment and even arrange you right there. Email us at hello@epicenter-nyc.com or call or text us at 917-818-2690.
Now back to the show. Here's my conversation with Brigitte. Yeah, if we could start from the beginning, how and why did you become a pastry chef?
So I actually was pre-med in college, and I was working in a lab in New Haven. Every week I was spending my time finding a recipe online and trying it out and seeing how it went. I'd often bring in whatever I baked to my work colleagues and got their feedback. But I found it a very relaxing activity that I kept on doing very often. So it started weekly, and then I would do 2 things a week. And at the time, I was not really enjoying my job. I was doing kind of the work of 2 people. Someone had left and they never replaced them. I was having some issue with some colleagues as well. And I just wasn't really enjoying my time. So the main thing that was bringing me joy was baking. And that's why I kept on doing it more and more. And at a certain point, I decided to apply to a job in a restaurant back in New York, actually. So I went for the interview. I did a day of a trailing, saw service for a bit, and met some of the people working there. Didn't actually think I'd get the job, but I did. So that was my very unceremonious switch, and I've been doing it since.
When did you first start baking or start cooking?
I kind of started in college. I would bake for some of my friends every so often for late night bites. I actually was really watching Princess and the Frog a lot, and I loved how the beignets looked. So I remember making beignets one time. They didn't come out super regular, but they tasted great, which mainly was the goal.
For those of us who unfortunately haven't seen the classic, what is that? Is that a pastry?
It's fried dough, basically. It's like a donut. They typically dust it with powdered sugar at the end, but it's a dough, and you let it rise a little bit, and then you fry it, and then powdered sugar. It's very simple, but it tastes great. Monde is really known for that in New Orleans. I think that was my first very direct project in baking and pastry, and then I really moved from there.
So you didn't grow up baking or spending a lot of time in the kitchen.
No, I think I more got pressure from my mom and aunts to learn how to cook. I'm Haitian, and Haitian food is very complicated and it takes such a long time. And also, I think I have very type A way of thinking. So I like exact things and knowing exact timing and things like that. So that really ties in well with pastry. But for Haitian cooking, it's not really how it goes. I remember asking my grandma how much of a certain spice to put in, and she would say, like, you put in until it's enough. That's very difficult for my mind to wrap around. I know I could get it, with practice. I definitely have cooked Haitian food before and it does taste good, but it doesn't come as naturally to me. Surprisingly, we also did not eat many sweets growing up. It's not huge in Haitian culture. We do have some like desserts that are well known and snacks as well, like candied nuts. There's I guess, a sweet potato kind of root vegetable grated and then cooked almost to bread pudding consistency. That's very good and well known. It's called pain patate. But yeah, it's not a very dessert centric cuisine. So I didn't have a lot growing up.
And so what was your family's reaction when you made that career move then to pastry, like baking?
It wasn't super well received immediately. I think it took them some time to see the vision, especially leaving pre-med, which is like a very solid, very consistent, always need doctors, always need nurses, any kind of medical professional. There's always a need and a call for it. So it's more dependable than an art-based career. So definitely there was some period of time where they were not super on board. I also did not tell them up front. They found out via a friend seeing me at the restaurant and working, and before I had a chance to tell them. So obviously not ideal. So yeah, it took some time, but after I went to school and started to gain bearing in Michelin restaurants, I think they came around and they came to eat for the first time at the second restaurant I worked at, the Modern, and they had a lovely time. And I think since then they've been more receptive to the career switch.
And then when did you realize like this could be, your career? When did you make that choice for yourself?
I didn't really make it. I think I use getting the job as an external validation that I could do it. And I didn't really think about it much further than that. I just kind of tried to learn as much as possible and grow as much as possible because everything I had known prior to that was just from working at home, which was very basic. I think I was looking at pictures of stuff I made that year when I was baking mostly for my coworkers recently with my parents, and we were kind of laughing at what I thought was, amazing work at the time, and now I would have plenty of say and plenty of criticism for it.
Like what?
Um, like icings weren't like super solid and the vision was there, but the execution was definitely amateur, which is fine. I love the start and I wouldn't change it, but I definitely now I'm like, wow, my ideas of what is great has changed drastically from that time, which is interesting to see because you never feel the growth while you're in it.
Yeah. Have you found that also helps with any Haitian dishes that you make? Because I know you had said that like you didn't have that intuitive way of working before where it's like you just feel it out even if you don't have a recipe.
Yes, I think so because in the same way that I find it hard to make Haitian savory food, I've realized that I've kind of developed that sense in pastry, which is very exact, but now I can think of like ratios and generally what has worked before. And so I am more able to feel out something that I used to only look at very much in an exact measurement, exact times. And now I'm kind of like, oh yeah, you can feel it out a little bit. You just need to know enough. I guess I need to revisit making more Haitian food.
But you had written about what Haiti's cuisine, specifically desserts, or a specific dessert could look like without colonial influence. I found that really interesting. Could you speak about how you made that connection and when you started really wondering about that, what that journey's looked like?
So I went to France for pastry school, which is complicated because France is like the world's capital of pastry, and that's where a lot of pastry innovation happens. And we have a very complicated history with France. And so there were many moments in school that I felt that kind of complication arise. For example, when we had a lecturer come in from a chocolate company based in France. Now, France doesn't produce any chocolate. So I think I was really irked by that conversation because the representative was mentioning all of these places that do farm cacao and referencing a farmer growth program that they were really proud of. And I was just like, there are no business centers for this company in any of those places that you farm the cacao from. And that really just bothered me. I don't remember the question I asked specifically, but I know I pissed off this representative because I was like, I don't know how great your farmer growth program can be if a farmer can never progress out of farming into the business aspect, which is where the money is. And so that has really informed the way that I think about pastry because a lot of ingredients that we use and call classic, like vanilla, chocolate, all of these are coming from places that are not considered the pastry capitals, places of innovation for pastry. I was trying to look at what the history of food would look like without colonization because there's the history tied to the ingredients, obviously, like sugar, vanilla, chocolate, all of that is currently going on as well. Like vanilla is very, very, very expensive because it takes so, so long to cultivate and grow. None of it is grown in those places, like I was mentioning before. And yet it is considered one of the most basic flavors. Why is that? So I think I like to think about those things a lot and kind of imagine pastry through the context of history. That's an ongoing project. I mean, it's kind of hard to twist your mind out of what is reality. It's like a fun game of what if, but you have to unlearn a lot of things temporarily for it to even like result in anything. So I think it's going to be a long going project, and maybe one day I'll be able to write a cookbook with all of my results with that. But that's mainly born of like these questions that I have coming up in conversations about pastry in general, pastry in context of social structures and history. And yeah, I think it's fun to play with what if this did not happen.
I was just curious about your, the greatest challenge you faced, when, I don't know if you would consider it a pivot, but yeah, when you started baking, when you started baking as a job and then as a career, what was most challenging about that? And then what continues to be a challenge now?
I think at the time it was adjusting to the lifestyle. It's very rigorous work, it's long hours, it's late nights. And I initially had a very strong opposition to the late night part of it at the very least. And then naturally, you also encounter problems when you try to take something that you're very passionate about and then make it your job because capitalism. But I think I'm better at balancing it a bit now, but all my issues with it still reflect the same things, which is it's very difficult on the body. There's a lot expected from you during the times that you want to be around your family most. So, like during holiday season, is when you could be pulling 14, 15 hours of work, but not really spending holidays with your family. So now I'm a sous chef. So there's a little less wiggle room. And where I currently work, I work on holidays. So I get typically one holiday off. Last year I got Christmas off. So I was working Thanksgiving, I was working New Year's, I was working Mother's Day, Father's Day. All of those are like big days in the restaurant. So I think that's pretty difficult. Also, managing in the industry also removes you a little bit more from having hands-on time with the part that you like the most. We do get to recipe to develop, but sometimes you're like so tired from like all your other responsibilities, you don't even want to do it. So
What do you see as the future for your business?
I'm not full out business right now because of work, but I think the goal is to have a physical location, like a pastry shop, where I'm making a generally frequently rotating menu and making it like a dining experience to kind of reflect what my favorite parts of pastry are, but also continuing to do wedding cakes and custom bakes for people I know and other people I alike. I think I just like sharing pastries. Yeah, but currently I've just been making wedding cakes here and there. My boss actually was like, I think you should just make a wedding cake business because he was like, you made this will now be my third wedding cake this year.
Wow. And what are your most popular requests? So your business is mostly like wedding cakes, or I know you said it's not maybe a fully fledged business, at least in terms of like a physical venue, but
It was before I was working, and now I used to do bake sales. I used to do cake orders, like rolling anytime. But now I'm kind of just like reach out and I'll see if I can do it. Typically, we'll try to make it happen for a wedding cake, but a lot of the other requests do fall through because I'm just like, I don't have the bandwidth right now.
yeah. And when did you start the business during the pandemic?
I initially started just playing around in the kitchen quite a bit. And then maybe June, I started doing that.
Well, where can people find you in case you do have time for one of their requests for wedding cakes or another special occasion?
I think the most reliable place is probably my Instagram right now.
Which is
Queen Bee Bake Shop, like B, the letter B.
got it. And what have been some of your most popular requests, since you started the business?
I got a lot of tarts last year, a lot of tart requests, custom like flavor offerings. So because I did spend like a long time just making almost everything under the sun that I possibly could or trying to, I think my requests really range. And I don't think I consistently get a request. My grandma, however, has been asking me to make these like Haitian patties that I used to make. I remember like at the time I didn't have a rolling pin, so I made the puff pastry with a wine bottle. But I basically used a different dough than you typically find. I made a puff pastry, but I made it a lot of layers. And then I made the fillings as a collab with my mom. And so we did one with like a traditional salted fish. And then she like soaked it in water many times so that it's not like overly salty. So that was one of the fillings. And then we did another one with like a lamb filling that was beautifully tender. So good.
And these are
And
pastries.
yeah, so savory fillings, but pastries. It was my grandma's favorite, and she like was like, so when are you making that again? But that takes time.
It sounds like apart from the requests you get from family, it's just, being able to take that time, whatever time you do have where you're not working, and share that time with them is something that helps with, your stamina or just.
It is. It's really recharging, I think.
But yeah, no, thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day off. I really appreciate you taking the time for this.
No problem. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
If you want to order some sweet treats or learn more about Brigitte's work, follow at Queen Bee Bake Shop on Instagram. The link is in our show notes. And if you know of a local business that you think Epicenter should feature, let us know. Drop us a note at hello@epicenter-nyc.com. That's all for today. Thanks for listening, and thanks for supporting us as we do our best to support our community. We couldn't do it without you. For more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter at epicenter-nyc.com. Our intro music is All the Pretty Horses by Caravika. You can find more of their music on their website, linked to in our podcast description.